Harriet, directed and written by Lemmons alongside Gregory Allen Howard, tells the life story of abolitionist Harriet Tubman. Harriet should have been a powerful film. For such a courageous woman's story of her daring and faithful escape from slavery and her even more daring missions to free others. Unfortunately, Harriet doesn't quite reach the emotional heights and depths that Tubman and her passengers on the Underground Railroad would have actually experienced, due to its poor writing and its leaning on the basic formula for biopics. While we get a decent performance out of Cynthia Erivo, who plays Tubman, at times I felt that her choices emoting felt hollow, like she was playing Tubman, not Tubman actually being on screen and reacting within her own life. It's not only Erivo that does this either. It's the majority of the cast. Joe Alwyn, who plays the son of Tubman's former master, Gideon, just feels like a run-of-the-mill, all-bark, no-bite bad guy, where you know he's going to end up losing in the end to one of Tubman's defying acts. Janelle Monae's character, Marie Buchanan, a free African-American woman who randomly has a southern accent, though she was born and raised in Philadelphia, to try and teach Harriet on how to be a strong woman in the South on the run from the authorities, something that she has no idea about. It just felt like a big budget local theater production to a certain extent. This must be down to the writing, which is by far the weakest part of this film. Throughout Harriet, there are moments when the script sabotages itself, and it feels like it wants to tell this amazing story, but it just doesn't know how to. One such example is when Tubman arrives in Philadelphia, and she's telling her life story to Leslie Odom Jr.'s character, William Still. And she mentions how a former master's man threw a weight on her head and it fractured her skull, leading to possible premonitions. Then she goes on to tell him about her faith and how God speaks and tells her of the right path to take. While she tells this story, he writes down possible brain damage. A couple scenes later, we see Tubman have one of her premonitions from God and how he guides her to help more slaves to freedom, and Still calls it a miracle. Either stick with her faith guiding her or don't. If the film is supposed to be about her life, don't undermine the thing that guided her most. It's to say that you did this because you were lucky 13 times. In addition to the undermining of Tubman's faith, Harriet, like most films, missed the critical details of their subject's life. Instead of making up a character like Marie Buchanan, use the real story. Tubman's mother in Harriet as a character is wasted, as she is depicted as silly and helpless, when in reality, she was the one who instilled defiance in Tubman, not just her master's actions or the injustice that is slavery. In the real story of Tubman's life, her mother defied the sale of her son Moses when she caught wind of it by holding her and her son in their quarters and threatened her master and the man who wished to purchase him, resulting in the breaking down of the sale. She also was the one that introduced and affirmed her daughter's faith by reading her stories from the Bible about the liberation of Pharaoh's slaves. There would be no resistance and eventual freedom without her strong mother, and the film chose to make her weak and to give her strength to a woman that was born free. By undermining your subject and underemphasizing their motivations, one can only question as to why you want to showcase this amazing story and not want to do it the right way. As well as these examples, at the base level, Harriet relies on cliches like using taglines, catchphrases, and rousing speeches filled with the same overused motivational instrumental music, and probably the worst of all was the reflection on the result of the Civil War before the Civil War actually started. In films like this, it's not only really jarring to have the main character stand on the pulpit with a contemporary view in front of their oppressors in a made-up confrontation that never happened, and to go on a diatribe about the lost cause, actually using that phrase, and then saying that she prophesies the whole war and knows about the emancipation in that diatribe when you previously mocked her ability. It just doesn't fit the historical narrative or the time period for her to say that. Don't take your audiences out of the film to tell them what they already know or to further emphasize the point you were trying to make visually 5 seconds ago. Like the writing, the score in this film just doesn't fit. Throughout the film, there are instances where Tubman sings encoded messages to the slaves she's about to rescue. And while this did actually happen, there is a score typical of historical biopics of rebellious leaders swelling behind her song, and every speech she makes, or every time she has a premonition. I understand that the filmmakers want to make this story as epic and big as possible, and that music was vastly important to the slave experience, but the use of a modern instrumental soundtrack to inspire the audience while at the same time having traditional African American songs doesn't work. The audience you have are already invested in Tubman's life and actions, so you don't need to try and manufacture an epic soundtrack when Tubman's life story is already epic as it is. Don't try to overemphasize it by adding ambiance to something that doesn't need it. Harriet relies too much on cliché, undermines its main character's motivation, and overall just doesn't have the substance or the emotional depth the real Harriet Tubman's life had. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and check out this playlist for more film reviews and analysis. There will be more videos coming up soon. Thank you.